بسم الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سيقول السفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها قل لله المشرق والمغرب يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. وما جعلنا القبلة التي كنت عليها إلا لنعلم من يتبع الرسول ممن ينقلب على عقبيه وإن كانت لكبيرة إلا على الذين هدى الله وما كان الله ليضيع إيمانكم إن الله بالناس لرءوف رحيم. قد نرى تقلب وجهك في السماء فلنولينك قبلة ترضاها فول وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وحيث ما كنتم فولوا وجوهكم شطره وإن الذين أوتوا الكتاب ليعلمون أنه الحق من ربهم وما الله بغافل عما يعملون. ولئن أتيت الذين أوتوا الكتاب بكل آية ما تبعوا قبلتك وما أنت بتابع قبلتهم وما بعضهم بتابع قبلة بعض ولئن اتبعت أهواءهم من بعد ما جاءك من العلم إنك إذا لمن الظالمين. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم وإن فريقا منهم ليكتمون الحق وهم يعلمون.
جزاك الله الخير يا أبو عبد الرحمن. دكتور هشام.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحق من ربك فلا تكونن من الممترين ولكل وجهة هو موليها فاستبقوا الخيرات أينما تكونوا يأتي بكم الله جميعا إن الله على كل شيء قدير. ومن حيث خرجت فول وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وإنه للحق من ربك وما الله بغافل عما تعملون. ومن حيث خرجت فول وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وحيث ما كنتم فولوا وجوهكم شطره لئلا يكون للناس عليكم حجة إلا الذين ظلموا منهم فلا تخشوهم واخشوني ولأتم نعمتي عليكم ولعلكم تهتدون. كما أرسلنا فيكم رسولا منكم يتلو عليكم آياتنا ويزكيكم ويعلمكم الكتاب والحكمة ويعلمكم ما لم تكونوا تعلمون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون.
جزاك الله خير. سيدنا حبيب،
صفحة كم يا شيخ؟ أو
صفحة 24 هسه وصلنا.
سورة إيش؟ سورة البقرة.
سورة البقرة.
إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم. إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون. إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون. إلا الذين تابوا وأصلحوا وبينوا فأولئك أتوب عليهم وأنا التواب الرحيم. إن الذين كفروا وماتوا وهم كفار أولئك عليهم لعنة الله والملائكة والناس أجمعين خالدين فيها لا يخفف عنهم العذاب ولا هم ينظرون. وإلهكم إله واحد لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار والفلك التي تجري في البحر بما ينفع الناس وما أنزل الله من السماء من ماء فأحيا به الأرض بعد موتها وبث فيها من كل دابة وتصريف الرياح والسحاب المسخر بين السماء والأرض وتصريف الرياح والسحاب المسخر بين السماء والأرض لآيات لقوم يعقلون ومن الناس من يتخذ من دون الله أندادا يحبونهم كحب الله والذين آمنوا أشد حبا لله ولو يرى الذين ظلموا إذ يرون العذاب أن القوة لله جميعا أن الله شديد العذاب إذ تبرأ الذين اتبعوا من الذين اتبعوا ورأوا العذاب وتقطعت بهم الأسباب وقال الذين اتبعوا لو أن لنا كرة فنتبرأ منهم كما تبرأوا منا كذلك يريهم الله أعمالهم حسرات عليهم وما هم بخارجين من النار يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين إنما يأمركم بالسوء والفحشاء إنما يأمركم بالسوء والفحشاء وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون.
جزاك الله خير سيد. Iqbal, would you like to read, please?
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وإذا can you hear me?
Yeah.
وإذا قيل لهم اتبعوا ما أنزل الله قالوا بل نتبع ما ألفينا عليه آباءنا أولو كان آباؤهم لا يعقلون شيئا ولا يهتدون ومثل الذين كفروا كمثل الذي ينعق بما لا يسمع إلا دعاء ونداء صم بكم أمي فهم لا يرجعون
لا يعقلون.
صم بكم أمي فهم لا يعقلون يا أيها الذين آمنوا كلوا من طيبات ما رزقناكم واشكروا لله إن كنتم إياه تعبدون إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل به لغير الله فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزل الله من الكتاب ويشترون به ثمنا قليلا أولئك ما يأكلون في بطونهم إلا النار ولا يكلمهم الله يوم القيامة ولا يزكيهم ولهم عذاب أليم أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى والعذاب بالمغفرة فما أصبرهم على النار ذلك بأن الله نزل الكتاب بالحق وإن الذين اختلفوا في الكتاب لفي شقاق بعيد.
جزاك الله خير Iqbal. I think we'll stop here if you don't mind today. I'll ask Dr. Muhammad Hesham to go over what we've read over the next 10 minutes, and then Professor Moaal will start the reminder for us today. And we're very much looking forward to hearing him. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We agreed Surah Al-Baqarah is Surah Al-Iman and Surah Al-Islam as well. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining to us what is our Iman and how important is it. And there is a comparative picture that some of the scholars have put to how much the people stuck to their iman and what was the outcome of that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he said, although I don't personally much agree to it, but some famous scholars have put it, so I'm just copying them. So Adam alayhi salam, he disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then obey him. So they say they scored 50%. And again, this is al-taklif, this is al-khilafah, so our mustakhlafin who are following each others to employ al-sharia, and the sharia is al-Quran wa sunnah. So Adam, they say they score 50%. And then the next big book which comes with Musa alayhi salam, and what was the score of his people? Do you have a think?
Well, they scored minus, didn't they?
Minus 0%. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam on his own, what was his score? 100%. And then what was the score of the Sahaba and what should be our score? 100%. How is that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we start with the start of this juz, سيقول السفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم. The problem of changing of the qibla. If you probably, most of you or all of you have been to Al-Madinah and been to Masjid al-Qiblatayn, and when you pray and then they said to you, you know the door you come from, which is completely opposite direction to the qibla, this was the direction of qibla towards Jerusalem, Al-Quds, and this is now the qibla. So what happened is Prophet Muhammad was praying al-Asr, and then he have done 2 rak'ah, have done it hayat, and then Jibreel said to him, change the direction, the qibla is changed completely towards the other direction, and then he changed it, he rotated about 180 degrees, and then the Sahaba followed him without any struggle or any problem. So they scored 100%. Also at the end of the surah, which you probably will come across it again tomorrow, قالوا سمعنا وأطعنا. And Bani Israel, what they have said in order to make them score 0%, قالوا سمعنا وعصينا. We know what you are saying, but we are going to do the opposite. What is the price of this obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In ayah number 65, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمْ الَّذِينَ اعْتَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ فَقُلْنَا لَهُمْ كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ. They lost their life, and before they losing their life, they become like monkeys. So the price of can be losing life and humiliation in the day after. Qissat al-Baqarah, Surah al-Baqarah, what we are reading about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know the story, someone have killed someone and they accused some other people, and then Musa alayhi salam, he said to them, Inna Allah ya'murkum an tadhbahu baqarah. Any cow, which is worth of nothing, 2 pounds by the price of today's money or whatever. And what happened if they obey straight away? They could save themselves lots of money, but they keep disobeying until they have to bring a very particular cow, which costs them, they said, 10 times the weight of this cow in gold. So sometimes disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can cost you huge financial loss, which we are seeing in a riba or whatever we are doing nowadays. Allah can get us away from that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first 2, if I summarize in ayah number 177, ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it's not only a deen to follow al-Qibla in this direction, it's very important, but, and then this ayah, it is a summary of the whole deen, and I explained it before. It is very similar to Surah Al-Asr. What is Surah Al-Asr saying? وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And this is explanation probably of Surah Al-Asr. It said, وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. So this is Al-Iman. What is in Surah Al-Asr after that? وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Here it would say, وَآتَى الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِ الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَالسَّائِلِينَ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَى الزَّكَاةَ والموفون بعدهم إذا عهدوا. This is وتواصوا بالحق. You have to, if you give someone a promise, you have to return back whatever you owe this person. and then وتواصوا بالصبر in this ayah والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring lots of rules in the surah, as-siyam, al-hajj, and lots of things, but the ulama said al-ibadat is mixed up with the rules, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, talking about al-hajj mixed up with al-qital. There is a big link, of course, in surah al-hajj. Will explain it more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need power in order to maintain al-hajj, or to be maintained and to be coming back. And also al-hajj is a training camp for qital if you want to go for jihad. What is the deen about? In this juz, you have to learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the 5 things that's very important to me or you are explained and are preserved in Surah Al-Baqarah here. حفظ الدين, the preservation of deen. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم, because Qibla is the most important thing for Salah, and Salah is the most important thing for deen. حفظ النفس, the preservation of soul. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم القصاص. And then حفظ العقل, preservation of the mind. Allah in آيات الخمر يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر. ثم حفظ النسل, you have to preservation your own breed. بآيات النكاح والطلاق ولا تنكحوا المشركات. ثم حفظ المال بآيات الإنفاق وآيات الربا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is presenting this deen for our sake, and what will be the glory and what will be the price if we obey. Even on Bani Israel themselves, on a branch of them, the last page, ألم تر إلى الملأ من بني إسرائيل من بعد موسى إذ قال, I'm saying that last page in this in this juz is قالوا نبي لهم ابعث لنا ملكا نقاتل في سبيل الله قال هل عسيتم إن كتب عليكم القتال ألا تقاتلوا. And then وقال لهم نبيهم إن الله قد بعث لكم طالوت ملكا. This prophet, they asked this prophet, want to fight, want to go for jihad, and they said, okay, Talut will be your king. And then once he said this, why he should be our king? Is he better than us? Is he whatever? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I don't want to go through all of it. فلما فصل طالوت بالجنود قال إن الله مبتليكم بنهر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give them a small test. They will go through a river and they have not to drink thoroughly from it, just to a small sips. They said there were 76,000. All of them failed except how many? 313 people who don't drink. And now 313 people are facing a huge troops, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them victory. And Dawood alayhi salam, he killed Jalut, and because of the obedience of Allah. وجزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم.
جزاك الله خير حبيبنا الشيخ. دكتور موئل حبيبنا، أنت الحلقة مفتوحة لك، عندك إن شاء الله يعني حوالي أكثر من 25 دقيقة.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
حبيبنا أنت.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I'm very delighted to meet you all again, and it gives me a really great pleasure to initiate this series of lectures, or tazkiras as it's called, with the beginning of Ramadan, Friday day, and at a time whereby we are at a lockdown, whereby we have to be confined to our houses, our tables, and our pencils and papers. For those who use pencils and papers, like me, not using the computers anymore. And I thought of talking about the key that really opens the entire universe. And we have so many locks in our life, and the lockdown that we have really would be very convenient and very relevant to talk about Surah Al-Fatiha, because Surah Al-Fatiha, as I'm sure all of you understand, indicates the opening. Now, many of us really understand Fatiha. I think all of us know it by heart. And today I wanted to look at some keys in Surah Al-Fatiha, some, if you like, secrets, which has been discussed by so many scholars, so many Muslim scholars in regard to Surah Al-Fatiha. What is it all about, really? What is so special about? Why do we have to repeat it in every prayer and every rak'ah in order to fulfill our ritual obligation? And not only that, Surah Al-Fatiha is expected to be a starting point for so many practices in Islam, including death and life, including marriage and divorce. So what is it all about, Surah Al-Fatiha? It is certainly one of the most important surahs in the Quran, if it is not the most important. And the importance really is not importance of preference and importance of position, because all the Quran is important. But it's because it's actually encapsulates what the entire Quran contains. And one of the best quotes that I found describing Surah Al-Fatiha and its position within our own intellectual and theological understanding of Islam is a quote from one of the greatest scholars who participate in the tafsir of Quran, which is Imam Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, who flourished on the 13th century AD, which is, he was born 691 AH and died 751 AH. And he's a very well and very renowned as a scholar who is able to unpack the condensed concepts and reveal them in such a way that he breaks them down to the layman, people like me, who is able to understand the complex difficulties. He tells us that the secret of creation and all creeds in Islam, and I'm reading from his book, At-Tafsir al-Qayyim, the valuable interpretation of Quran, which is not very common, which is not very prevalent among people. We don't find it really often in bookshelves, because more famous books are used, like Tafsir Ibn Kathir and At-Tabari, Tafsir Sayyid Qutb, and so on. And I actually was interested in Tafsir al-Qayyim a while now, since I wrote my book on the Tafsir of Al-Fatiha and Al-Baqarah some 20 years ago, when I was interested in developing some kind of initiation of the tafsir. He said the secret of the creation and the universe and all creeds, the secrets of punishment and reward, and servitude and worship to Allah, can be found in all the books of Allah that He has revealed. And he specifically mentioned the Torah, the Injil, and the Quran. And the synopsis of all the revealed books is encapsulated in the Quran. And the entire meaning of the Quran is encapsulated or synthesized in the Al-Mufassal, Mufassal really is a reference that interpreters use in reference to the short surahs of Quran, which are separated by Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that we all know at the end of the Quran. And the synopsis of the Mufassal, he said, is in Surah Al-Fatiha. So really, the Surah Al-Fatiha is the creme of the creme. It contains the entire synopsis of Islam, and it's not really, there are so many meanings that can often be revealed into it when we read it with some kind of background knowledge in Islam or in Arabic language. And he said, this is summarized into the two words, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. To thou we worship, and thou we ask help and assistance. He said worship combines two elements, and I think we need to think about it carefully. This one is the ultimate love, غاية الحب, and the other one is غاية الخضوع, obedience. So إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين contains the ultimate love and ultimate submission to Allah and obedience. He said that ultimate love cannot be accomplished without ultimate obedience. You can be an ultimate lover, but you cannot be ultimate servant to Allah unless you obey Him as well. And you can be ultimate obedient to Allah, but without accepting Allah as the master of the universe, then you are not abd. The concept of, the idea of servitude to Allah, the word abd, unfortunately has a different resonation. It resonates differently in Arabic and in English. It's not really, it does not indicate slavery. It indicates a combination of love and servitude and an absolute, being absolutely immersed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what the ulama call it as the tawheed. And the tawheed forks into two kinds, tawheed al-rububiyyah and tawheed al-uluhiyyah. One is to recognize that Allah is the one, and the other one is to apply the requirements of this acknowledgement. Now, the surah itself starts by Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Allah. But if we think about it, I want us to think about what is Alhamdu. It is not say, we are not saying only praise. We are saying the praise. So in other words, the ultimate praise is to Allah. And the surah contains very important asma or names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which again encapsulate the entire Asma'ullah al-Husna, the beautiful names of Allah, which is Allah, Rabb, and Rahman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is introduced in this surah. And the surah really focuses on the three central pivots. Introducing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one we worship, and confirming the ma'ad, i.e. the resurrection, and confirming the prophethood of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the prophethoods in general. And the surah itself confirms the day of judgment, confirm the resurrection, confirm the return of human being to life after death, life after death, after they die. And it also confirms prophethoods. And this is the bit which can be in theology. I remember when we were teaching Islamic theology to the undergraduate level, one of the points that requires philosophers, and I don't want to delve deeply into that, philosophers require confirmation, is how do you prove any prophethood? So if you have the prophethood of, you know, there are so many prophets, people claim prophethood these days. In Christianity, there are so many claimed prophets, and old and new. But how do we start confirming that Islam is the word of Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah? Obviously, there are so many ways. But Surah Al-Fatiha provides us so many clues or secrets, if you like, on how to go into the path of identifying the true path to the true prophet. That's why Islam is called Sharia. And Ibn al-Qayyim tells us in his book, in his tafsir, the prophethood has been proved by different ways. One of them, first one of them, when we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So he's the master of the universe. And being the master of the universe requires that he will not leave human being without lights to guide them in the right way. Now, how do we identify this light? And how do we approve it? Comes in the second part of the surah when it says, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And because he is merciful, he say, he has to be so merciful that he will provide his worshippers with the way in order to identify the truth, and a way which is not nebulous, a way which is clear, which is a way which when a human being can identify this is the right way. And this way has to be in a way which is understandable to human being or by some human beings. And that is why the Quran was revealed for human beings to be identified, but it was revealed in one particular language in order that this language will be understood by other language. And Arabic language was chosen because of its prolific nature. Arabic language with its vocabularies and with its syntax and semantics is able to provide the, if you like, the foundation for receiving the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the message of Allah is so powerful, it could have not been possible for other languages to undertake the weight of the message itself. And obviously we do not want to go into great details because Dr. Saad is watching me like a hawk with regard to time. But I think it is important that we really understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Fatiha, we have a kind of a starting point. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. We're describing Allah, the verse describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a very profound way. Quite often when we read it, we just read it and we pass by it. But we need really to think about it. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, because it is identifying, as the ulama say, at-ta'rif bil-ma'bud, identifying the one to be worshipped. And identifying how do we find this ma'bud. And we have really so many important messages here whereby we need to look at the sirat. This is the second part of the message that is conveyed in the Quran. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Sirat, which is the path, the loose translation of the word sirat really is the path. And Ibn al-Qayyim, I'm sticking to Ibn al-Qayyim because I think he's one of the best people who actually managed to unpack so many ideas and concepts of Surah Al-Fatiha. He said the mentioning of the sirat came as a defined name. He didn't say guide us a sirat. He said guide us al-sirat, the sirat, the path. And it's not only the path, it is the path which is straight. So it is one path, and it is one and only path which is straight. And this path is required to be identified by Muslims, by believers, by human beings, and try to follow it. And it is some requirement and responsibility. It is an interactive responsibility whereby people who do not know need to know, and people who know should pass what they know to those who don't know. And the problem here really is a little bit of a predicament. It's a philosophical predicament. Again, I'm not going to go into detail in it, but Al-Khalil bin Ahmed al-Farahidi, the great grammarian, was once asked while he was giving a lesson, what is the meaning of so and so? And Al-Khalil paused for about a few moments, which went on further and further and further until he took about half an hour thinking. And that man was pleased. He laughed. He said, I have mortified Al-Khalil. And Al-Khalil looked at him and he said to him, you know, أتعبت نفسي لأفهمك. I have troubled myself so you can understand how to think about something that you can understand. Because obviously that man put the question in such a way that is that indicates that he needs a lot of teaching in order to understand it. And then he gave him the answer. But he followed his answer by a statement, which is a very well-known, probably some of you know it. الناس ثلاثة. People are of three kinds. People are of three kinds. رجل يدري ويدري أنه يدري. A person who knows, and he knows that he knows. فذلك عالم فاسألوه. That man is a scholar to be asked. ورجل لا يدري, and a person who doesn't know. ويدري أنه لا يدري, and he knows that he doesn't know. Are you with me? رجل لا يدري, doesn't know, and he knows that he doesn't know. فذلك طالب علم فعلموه. You have to teach that person. ورجل لا يدري ولا يدري أنه لا يدري, and a person who doesn't know, and he doesn't know that he doesn't know. فذلك جاهل فانبذوه. And he looked at the man and smiled. So really we need, while we are, how I want to really to pass this thought to our practical life while we are living here in the West, really. There are people who are knowledgeable, and I think those people who are knowledgeable are becoming like stars who are dying. And unfortunately, we, the ignorant people, need to find these stars and learn from them before they die, And we don't want to spend our life chasing dying stars, because dying stars are nothing but oblivion. Dying stars are nothing but sometimes guide us to the wrong way. So, and the people who don't know, but they don't know that they don't know, there are so many of them today in our society. And with the movement, with the situation in our modern life, that are actually infusing lots of ignorance among people and trying to actually justify to them what is not justified, what is not correct, simply because that is what they know. And those who don't know and they don't know that they don't know are not only, unfortunately, among those who are ignorant, but also among people who claim scholarship and knowledge. And that is why we have to be very careful. From whom do we take and what do we do and which path do we follow? And this is one of the ideas that Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned, that as-sirat al-mustaqim is a path which sometimes can be lonely. But if it is a path which there aren't many people who follow it, that doesn't mean it is not the right path. The true path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quite often is not very crowded. And the higher you go, the more lonely you become. And I think it's extremely important that we identify the true path and we identify true scholarship and try to follow it and learn from it. And I think in our time, I was looking at, the very well-known phenomena of followers. Millions and millions follow people, not because of their knowledge, not because of their benefit to the society, but because of actions that they have done, which can often be useless. And in Islam, although it's a faith which encourages creation, creativity, and understanding, but we have to make sure what do we do and where do we find as-sirat al-mustaqim, because as-sirat al-mustaqim is a very unique and important and relevant path which can achieve for us our life, happiness, tranquility, and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I hope I can stop here really and let the floor discuss what I have said. Thank you very much. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
جزاك الله خير. افتح النقاش الموضوع. جزاك الله خير والله، يعني في التحليل جيد. وانا قلت لك انه yesterday we had a touch on سورة الفاتحة من الدكتور محمد هاشم.
ما شاء الله عليه دكتور هاشم. نعم.
يعني انت الحمد لله يعني you tackled it from slightly different angle. تفسير ابن القيم. دكتور محمد هاشم، عندك سؤال للبروفيسور موئل؟
لا والله جزاه الله خير، كلام جميل يعني very nice presentation. and الفاتحة تفتح القلوب وتفتح the way between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to appreciate it more and just to read it slowly. The only recommendation to me when we read Al-Fatiha, I read it slowly so it can give the conversation between or the dialogue between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, in fact, we should read all the Quran as well slowly, really, because we quite often think that the faster we read the Quran, the better it is. I mean, there are many scholars who say the importance of the contents of the Quran and the elements of the Quran, because there are lots of papers written by Muslim scholars about the importance of the elements of the Quran. أهمية الحروف, the importance of the letters, أهمية المعاني, وأهمية المحتوى, and why the Prophet ﷺ recommended to some Sahaba and to some Muslims to read verses of Quran in order to cure them from disease. Obviously, this is also there, but I think we have to understand the meaning and think about it and learn from it.
أي سؤال آخر أيضا يا سيد حبيبنا سيد تفضل سيد أنت you muted yourself. I cannot unmute you. ما شاء الله عليك. تفضل سيد.
جزاكم الله خير يا دكتور ناس، جزاكم الله خير على التقديم الجميل ده. بس عايز اضيف شيء ان قراءة
in English because there are people obviously who do not know Arabic.
Oh, okay, sorry, I forgot. Okay, I just want to add something that reciting the Al-Fatiha need to take more consideration, more significance. Because, you know, if we in Salah, for example, if we recite Al-Fatiha incorrectly, so our Salat is batila. Our Salah is nothing. So we need to confirm to read the Fatiha correctly rather than all the Quran. Because, you know, Al-Fatiha in Salah is fard min furud al-Salah. Is obligation to performance the prayer. That's why we need to confirm to read the Fatiha in a correct way or correctly. In Malaysia and Thailand, over there they interest a lot to recite Al-Fatiha because they know that this rule in Islam. For example, if we said Malik Yawmiddin, Malik Yawmiddin with sukun, so you did haram. If you said Malik Yawmiddin with taskeen, because it's Malik is only for people, no for Allah. We have to say Maliki Yawmiddin, because Maliki is so different from Malik. That's why we need to confirm to read Al-Fatiha and interest to recite Al-Fatiha correctly. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah khair. This is a very interesting point, an important one. And really, we have to understand the learning of Islam within the knowledge of obviously, Brother Sayyid mentioned people in Malaysia and in Indonesia, and their emphasis on how they read the Quran. The person who doesn't know Al-Fatiha, obviously, what we are talking about is a person who is able to learn Al-Fatiha and who is able to recite it properly and who is able to learn it as well. Now, the people who is unable, his recitation will be acceptable so long as he cannot. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. But if a person can do it, then this requirement will be valid. And I thank Brother Sayyid for it. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek.
Any other question?
Ayman, Jazakallah khair, Doctor. Just about إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. I'm not sure if I heard you right. إياك نعبد. Did you say it includes or means, oh you Allah, we worship? It doesn't include the slavery to Allah? هل يعني تشمل العبادة وليس العبودية؟
I mean, when I said slavery, I said there is difference in the meaning of the word slavery in Arabic and English. The problem that we have quite often is with the epistemology and the phraseology of the two languages. And there is a rough translation which can be acceptable just in order to convey the meaning. But we have to think about the concept of slavery, which is common in English language to indicate the picture of a slave being humiliated, being captured by the pirates, carried from the Caribbean or from different parts of the world to the colonialist parts of the world, subjugating them, whipping them in order to use them. And between the person who dedicates himself, you see the difference between slavery in the negative form and the dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which really Abdullah indicates. Because really, when Ibn al-Qayyim was speaking about it, he said, the true servitude to Allah, the true subjugation to Allah, cannot be accomplished unless it contains the two elements, love and obedience. And then you will be Abdullah. One of them is not enough. And this is really the difference between Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. One is to recognize Allah as the Lord, the Master of the universe. And the other one is to, or the Creator, if you like, and His Asma Allah al-Asma al-Husna. And the other one is, how do you abide by that practice? If you are a man or a woman, if you are in position of power, if you are in a position of weakness. And we today in our society, unfortunately, we thought we are making ourselves into the shape of divine, in the shape of God. And you can't even find it in the terminology that people use. They say she is a goddess, meaning that she is somebody to be worshipped by people, and the same word is also used. And we have to differentiate between two. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something which is of a different frame. We cannot extrapolate the concepts which are prevalent in a particular language to indicate certain notions or concepts to the idea which has been undertaken in Arabic language, which has a completely different concept, really. Even the word God itself, and I mean, I accept the word God quite often as a translation of Allah, but it's never identical to it. And the same thing applies to Ubudiyyah. And we have to also understand, while we are talking about that Surah Al-Fatiha actually gives us a huge, I mean, obviously we have on a very limited time, and I covered this subject in my book, Tafsir Surah Al-Fatiha and Surah Al-Baqarah, which was published, when was it published? 2002, I think. Yes, 2002, which takes a long time, really. The idea of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do we understand Allah? It is summarized in the Quran in many ways, in many places. But Surah Al-Fatiha gave us a kind of short synopsis. You know, the synopsis that you write when you present research for your master's, PhD, or whatever. You have to give a synopsis, which has to be compact and represent every element of the topic. And that is what is Surah Al-Fatiha. Obviously, we haven't, I really, in this small tadhkir, I probably covered about 5% of what can be said about Surah Al-Fatiha and about the idea of Ubudiyyah and Rububiyyah and so on and so forth.